What's up guys, Rich here with Hanhart's Primus Diver. So I'm really excited about this watch because Hanhart is such a storied brand and has such a rich and storied history behind it. It's been in production since 1882, but that's not the interesting point regarding its history. The interesting point is that it's a brand that's been around non-stop in production. In other words, there was no period of dormancy that was created by the quartz crisis of the 70s and early 80s that forced a lot of mechanical watch brands to close their doors. And sometimes the brands that closed their doors would later be resurrected by someone new or a new ownership for that. Not the case with Hanhart. They were able to be nonstop. And so it's a storied brand that has such a long history, as long or longer than a lot of other of our most famous watches. So that's really a great point. I really respect that a lot. They were able to survive that quartz crisis by adapting. So in other words, they were able to produce their own quartz movements as well as mechanical movements by weathering the storm, hoping and anticipating that there would be a robust return to mechanical watches. And they were right. So by going along and producing their own quartz movements and continuing with the mechanical watches, they were able to weather that storm and have that nonstop period of production. So really worth noting. It is a Swiss-made brand, but they have moved to Schwerin, Germany since then, and where it has just strong German roots. And again, I encourage you to take a look at their long history. It's also been designed by Miodrag Mijatovic Mijat, and he's also designed Hublot's Big Bang, as well as watches for specific brands such as IWC, Omega, Blancpain, Zenith, Jean Richard. So, just some of our most famous and beloved high-end brands are the models that he's developed for. So I'm going to leave, again, a link to Hanhart's history as well as Miodrag's website so we can learn more about all the legendary high-end watches that he's designed for within the industry. The Primus Diver is in 44 millimeters. It's 15 millimeters tall, and it uses a 22 millimeter strap width. So when we look at the watch, it's just so visually attractive, very handsome, that I'm not really sure where to begin regarding the talking points. But I think I'm going to begin with this ceramic bezel inlay. It's inverted, so it slopes inwards, drawing our eyes to this very attractive dial layout. So the markers, the oversized markers and the 12 are fully loomed, as well as both registers at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock that are fully loomed. I'm not really a fan of fully loomed dials, but I do like the fact that both registers are fully loomed. It's tastefully done. The whole watch is just well thought out and well executed. They are loomed with Swiss Super Luminova. And I'm going to talk about the movement early on because I just touched on the layout of the watch. The base movement is the 7750, but it also has a modification and module by Lugs. So they are one of the most luxurious and high-end watch movement manufacturers. So that might explain a little bit more of the tall factor of this. Still at 15 millimeters, it's not overly tall, but with that modification to it and that module, that would help explain that. But Lugs and Hanhart really did a great job with this movement. They regulate the movement in-house to 6 positions, and they assure us of 0 to plus 8 seconds a day in accuracy. I've been getting 0 deviation to plus 1 second a day in accuracy. So both Hanhart and Lugs did a wonderful job regarding the accuracy. And I believe the power reserve is also 60 hours. But the other point of talking about the layout is we might be familiar with the 7750's layout where the registers would be, or subdials would be at 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 12 o'clock with a date window at 3 o'clock. By using the modification and module to the 7750 movement, Hanhart was able to almost customize this movement where they can have the registers, oversized registers at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock with a date window at 6 o'clock. It's going to be somewhat reminiscent of Solida's 510 movement, but what Hanhart did was this, instead of going directly to the Solida 510, which I believe they do for some of their other movement, is that they really went upscale with a Lugs partnership here. And we can see those fully decorated movement with the blue screws and the custom motors. That's not something that we would get with just the Solida 510. So a fully decorated, just a wonderful modification to that movement. So I do support that. I really like that. And so the height, again, that doesn't bother me as well. So if we stay with the dial, it has the red above 12 o'clock and this red anodized aluminum color on the bottom pusher. So there are really two urban legends to this. And by the way, this has been around on Hanhart since 1939. The first urban legend has it where the wives of the pilots would paint the pusher with their red nail polish just to remind them to their husband and to make sure that they would come home safely. The other urban legend, and probably more where we can prove that, the likelihood that we can prove that, is that Hanhart intentionally painted the bottom pusher red just to remind the pilots not to reset it while it's in the timing process. So while we can't really prove either of those two legendary stories, I kind of like that first story better regarding the wives and reminding their husband to come home safely. I kind of like that. It's a little bit more romantic, but either of those urban legends just really adds a nice context to the brand. The case is just really well finished as you expect, just really well done. But the other point that we have to talk about, and if you haven't already noticed, is that these lugs are fully flexible. So the point of this is really with 2 points. One, according to Hanhart, and which is true, not all wrists are the same. So even though on paper we'll have a watch that's 40 millimeters or 42 or 44 millimeters, it's not going to wear the same on everyone's wrist, right? It's not going to be as comfortable on some wrists. It's not going to look the same on everybody's wrist because we are also very different. This really adds sort of that custom factor, making the watch one of the most comfortable watches I've come across. This is just a really comfortable watch. It's 44 millimeters. I have a small wrist at about 6.5 inches to put that into perspective, and it's just super comfortable. So adding these lugs is more than just a novelty. It's actually a very useful purpose that Miodrag helped design. The other purpose is that in the summertime, our wrists tend to swell, right? And so we will usually adjust the strap, adding to it to the next hold down, or if we have a bracelet, and we can take advantage of the micro adjustment if that's available to us. But with these flexible lugs, we don't have to touch the strap or the bracelet, because as our wrists tend to swell because of the heat, these lugs contract inwards, so the strap won't feel as tight on us as they would when we're all hot and sweaty, right? So just a great purpose, just really well thought out, just nice purposes all around with the watch. The strap is a rubber strap, and we can see the branding that is embedded there, and also comes with an available calf leather strap as well. So I want to talk about this deployant clasp as well. There's the red right there, and again with the Hanhart branding. But we can see here it's just a really well made deployant clasp. There's their branding again, just really solidly made. There isn't anything that I can nitpick regarding this watch. It's just has that oozes that first-rate quality here. Hanhart is just obsessed with quality, and I can attest just based on this watch that the quality is there. So these watches are Swiss-made, which means that they have to be QC'd or quality controlled in Switzerland. But that's not enough for Hanhart. They are German-based, but they also do a second round of quality control in Germany. So that's a bit of an obsession there. And eventually, Hanhart watches will be made in Germany instead of Swiss-made. But both of those carry that luxurious, prestigious origin of the watches. And while Swiss-made is often coveted, Hanhart just has a lot of pride in their German roots, and they want to go made in Germany. But we might also know that Germany doesn't have the same regulations as Swiss-made, so they can continue to use Swiss-made movements once they go in the direction of fully made in Germany watches. The Primus collection has 3 other models available. This is the Primus Diver, but they also have a Racer, Pilot, and Desert Pilot. And of those, the Desert Pilot is the only sandblasted case, if that interests us, and has that sort of sand-colored dial to it. So different options, all the same layout, but there'll be different touches for each collection. The Racer will have more of a gauge-looking connection between the 2 registers, and the Pilot will have the Flieger look above 12 o'clock. So just all around, just a first-rate watch. Again, nothing is a novelty here. Nothing is impractical. Just purposeful, everyday, useful touches to the watch. That makes this really a great daily wear. The Primus Diver retails approximately for $2,800, and for that we are getting just a top-level watch that I can't really find any flaws. The only thing that I could point out that some people might think about is that the 15 millimeter thickness, but that's still not thick in my opinion, because it is just because of that modification to the movement. But I think that's a nice payoff. It's just a beautiful watch, nice screwed on exhibition case back. So if we're looking for that unique looking chronograph that we're not going to see every day, made by designed by one of the most respected designers in Miodrag, then I think the Primus Diver is definitely worth a closer look. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you the next time.